All right. Good morning, PT on Ice Daily Show. Zach Morgan here. I'm lead faculty with our spine division for the cervical and lumbar spine courses. Just wanted to point you in the direction of a few of those offerings that are coming up with tickets left. If you're looking for cervical spine management, we've got Charlotte, North Carolina here in a couple of weeks. That'll be March 18th and 19th. Henrico, Virginia, April 15th and 16th in that same weekend. We will also be in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So if you're looking for cervical spine, those are the next few courses on the docket. If you're looking for lumbar, couple Tennessee offerings. So this weekend we'll be in Knoxville. That's March 11th and 12th. Next weekend here on the home front at Onward Hendersonville, here at our clinic, which will be March 18th and 19th. And then April 1st and 2nd, Madison, Wisconsin. So out there in beautiful Madison, I'm going to pull this down a little bit because that light is pretty bright. And let's get going. This morning, I wanted to talk to you all about communication and how that influences expectation and how that influences outcome. This is such a big part of our live course. We talk about this a lot, and how our expectation, or how shifting our patient's expectation really influences our outcomes. But we had a personal family situation come up last week that really just kind of made me start chewing on this idea for this podcast a little bit. So let me kind of start out by telling you a little bit of that story. Or I suppose week before last, Thursday, my dad had a stress test to his heart done. And his cardiologist suggested that we head over to St. Thomas and do a cath that following day, just to see a little bit more thoroughly what's going on. The expectations weren't really clear. They made it seem like potentially we could need a stent or some things like that. But the point was we were going to go in and have a cath done. And so starting Friday, we show up to get this cath done. And essentially after that procedure, we start to find out that there's more blockage than they were expecting, and it's going to require surgery. We all the while we were hearing mixed messages. It was interesting. So we were hearing things like, you've had a slight heart attack. And then another provider would come in and say, it turns out you haven't had a slight heart attack. They would say, hey, we need to do stents. Next thing you know, they're saying, hey, this is going to require bypass surgery. We were told there's 99% blockage on the LAD. You're a ticking time bomb, were the words used. But then we were told we don't do these surgeries on Friday unless it's an emergency, which you can understand in our position feels like an emergency to us when the words ticking time bomb are used. So really all through that day of Friday, we were in the CDU division there at St. Thomas in the cardiac decision unit, just trying to figure out what was going on and trying to have a better understanding of like what was going to unfold over the next few days, over the next few hours. Why is this not considered an emergency? These types of things. And during that whole time, myself and my family, we were under a lot of stress. My dad, especially, nobody more so than him. But it was a very stressful 24, 48, 72 hours leading up to his surgery on Monday. We were told all sorts of different things. And there was very little consistency from provider to provider or even person coming into the room each time. I mean, it would be literally one person would come in and say one thing, then the next person would come in and say something different, followed by someone else who said something different. And you can imagine the stress and anxiety that creates um, in someone who's expecting, played golf on the Wednesday prior to going in, thought he was totally healthy, and now we're having a lot of stressful conversations regarding heart surgery. So this was an interesting process to go through as medical providers, because we certainly have probably a little bit more wherewithal in this space than most, but this is not by any means, as you all know, as physical therapists, this is not our territory. So it wasn't like myself or my sister or my wife, all of who are physical therapists, really knew the right advice here. We felt a little bit like fish out of water in this situation, and it definitely created a bit of a stressful 24 to 72 hours for us. The miscommunication even led up to surgery was scheduled for 9 a.m. And then one thing led to another, and we really weren't taken back for surgery till 3 p.m. So it just led to had a consult room that myself, my sister, and my mom were able to go back and actually consult with and understand sort of what happened, what were the expectations of the surgery? How good was the healing going to be? What could we expect in the long term? And that conversation is really where this idea in my head for today's podcast kind of came up, because it gave us so much peace. And let me explain why. So that surgeon immediately came in and was willing to answer any questions that we had, which you can imagine over 72 hours, we had made quite a list. So we had kind of an ongoing list of questions that we were going to go over with this surgeon, and she was very good at answering these things. She was very confident in her prognosis and delivery. The expectation is full recovery, no heart damage whatsoever. We should see full recovery and probably even better cardiac output than was on board prior. So in the long run, obviously a home run. And I can't begin to explain to you how meaningful that conversation was with that cardiologist that day. She really helped us understand that we had went from a situation that we were very anxious and scared of the outcomes of, and helped us understand that we were going to be okay, and things were going to move forward, and dad's going to still be dad, and he's still going to be able to do all the things he wants to do. He's going to get back on the golf course, all of those things. And of course, these conversations happen in our clinics every day. Maybe not regarding heart surgery, but maybe regarding other things. And after that conversation with the cardiologist, I started chewing on this idea that we have the ability to provide that exact same level of peace to our clients. The peace that my family and I felt after having that conversation is available to all of our clients, but it's our job to communicate that effectively. We can go one of two routes. Each time the patient sees us, we could say something different. We could hit them with all sorts of different prognoses, all sorts of different diagnoses, all sorts of different information, which leaves them anxious, scared, and honestly not confident in the process. Or we could confidently deliver the truth and the diagnosis and the prognosis to our patients, which I believe that communication helps switch the patient expectation. And I believe that because firsthand, not being the patient, but being family to the patient, I felt that. Once that expectation switched in all three of our minds, and we understood, hey, we're going to have a full recovery here, things are going to go well, I know for sure the outcome will be better because of that conversation. It's not a question in my mind. I realize this is an anecdotal situation. I don't need to see research to understand this. My dad will recover better because of the conversation that surgeon had with us. He will have a better recovery because of the confidence that she instilled in us. She helped us understand that bypass should last more than 25 years. That should be more than a lifetime. That mitral valve repair is strong. She felt very confident in that repair. All of these things gave us so much peace. And I think it's our job to offer that same peace to our clients. So let me give you the example that kind of pops up into my mind when it comes to our clinic, which is obviously generally less severe than heart issues, but still sometimes we see really high severity clients who have a lot going on and who are scared in a similar mindset to the way my dad and my family all were last Monday. Think about the patient that comes to see you who has a really severe radicular situation going on, be it lumbar or cervical. Maybe they have an acute radiculopathy. Maybe they've seen a couple providers already and been told this is going to require some advanced imaging, some advanced injections, some sort of advanced procedure to alleviate the symptoms, and they're scared. They're afraid that they're going to have to go through something really uncomfortable and really sinister to get better, and then they show up in our door. Sometimes these people have pain screaming all the way down their arm. Maybe they even have a down nerve root, right? Like these are probably some of the more sinister complaints that we would still treat in the clinic. But the thing is, we have the ability to check those things in the physical exam. We can check their neurological exam. We can see the function of those nerves. And if the hard neurological signs are improving within session, improving between session, it's our job to deliver good communication to this person. Remember, they probably have never felt this type of pain before. Sometimes they might have had it in the past, but man, a lot of times if they see us for the first time, they come in the door afraid because they've never felt pain like this. It's as bad as they've ever imagined. All of a sudden, their shoulder doesn't work. A couple weeks ago, they could rock 25s on shoulder flies. Now they're down to 2.5, and the shoulder just won't quite lift it. And then within session, you traction their neck. Maybe you work retraction. You do whatever it is that you do to address that area, and you see that shoulder function improve. You see that nerve root become more healthy because of what you did. It's our duty to share that prognosis with people. Team, if we communicate this effectively, we can change their expectation. They walked in the door afraid they may never be normal again. They may never play with their grandkids again. They may never get back on the golf course. But if we communicate effectively, and if we track the relevant physical exam data and we see these things moving in the right direction, we can offer our patients that same peace. It might sound something like this. Steve, people show up here all the time with very similar complaints to what you have going on right now. Even the whole shoulder weakness thing is not something I'm necessarily afraid of. It is something I'm going to track really consistently. And as long as we see things moving in the right direction, people that show up like you, that centralize the way you did whenever we were stretching your neck like that, Steve, they always seem to do well. I love treating this. I tell you what, I'd like to follow up in the next 24 to 48 hours. What's tomorrow at 11 a.m. look like on your schedule? Do you have an hour you could carve out that we could pop back in here? I want to check that nerve root again and do a lot more of that traction work. Maybe get you going on some cardiovascular exercise to wash out some of those chemicals, get the pain down, get the function better. How's that sound? Team, that prognosis, when you deliver it to Steve, and he believes it because he just felt the centralization and he feels that confidence in you. And you've said, we see this all the time. Typically, when folks show up like you, they do really well with X. Let's do more of X. It gives them peace. It's such a strong patient interaction. It allows them to feel like, oh, wow, I think I'm finally going to get better. Team, once you flip that switch in their brain, the job becomes 1,000 times easier. We all know patient expectation crafts outcomes. If we can get our patients to believe they're going to get better, they're going to get better. And it almost doesn't matter what we do from there. When people believe they're going to get better, they get better. And that comes so strongly from our communication as providers. So this was a bit of a long story, but I guess in summary, my mind goes to just in that moment, the amount of peace that we felt. We went into a situation that we weren't well educated on going in. My family's relatively healthy. We have not personally had this happen within my immediate household or parents. My grandfather had a similar procedure, but it's been years and years ago. So none of us really understood what to expect. And the moment we understood, our expectation shifted. And the moment our expectation shifted, I knew the outcome would be good. And I still know the outcome would be good. Dad's home now. He's recovering really well. He's feeling a little better every day. And a lot of that has to do with the conversations throughout that process. It's not a situation anyone wants to go through. Very similar to radiculopathy. No one would wish that on someone. We hate that the patient is feeling this way. But it's our job to communicate with them. It's our job to let them know when we see centralization, patient's prognosis with physical therapy is really good. That's part of our job. We have to do our job there. Once we shift that expectation, the outcome is going to be dramatically different. Team, that's all I've got for you this morning. Thanks for listening. If you're looking for spine courses out on the road, Jordan and I will be all over the place this year. Just head on over to ptonice.com. Click our courses and you can find all sorts of stuff. Of course, all the other divisions are out there as well. Online cohorts starting all the time. We love catching up with you all in these settings. Thank you so much for your attention. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, drop them in the chat. I'd love to kind of talk through ways that we can craft patient expectations together as we go through this. Cheers and happy Tuesday.